What's going on, guys? It's time for another Defense Wins Fantasy. I'm your host, Seth, the Iceberg Burger. We are so close to the start of the season. Just one more preseason game set away, and then it's all systems go for the start of the season. Drafts are coming in hot and heavy. Make sure you're listening to The Flex. Make sure you're listening to Fat Boys Dynasty podcast. Both of those are extremely beneficial, now and into the season. But tonight, as always, we're going to talk about defensive players. And we're going to go a little bit more in depth on who I think is really going to be the cream of the crop this year. But first, I haven't really talked about it a lot because it's been, knock on wood, a pretty quiet offseason, or preseason rather, for some injuries and things of that nature with the defensive side of the ball. Now, that being said, there have been some, but the ones that are really impacting your starters or your IDP players have been few and far between so far. But two I really wanted to talk about is one, Kayvon Thibodeau, who has that knee sprain from that absolute garbage preseason chop block. I know they came out and said, well, the block was legal, but man, come on now. That just is brutal to see for that guy. So he's going to miss some time. They're saying late September he'll be back, so probably missing a couple weeks right off the bat, which is just a shame for a rookie when they're going to have to kind of get climatized to the NFL way of life and the speed of the game. It's tough to have a guy that's going to miss a few games at the start of the season while everybody else is revving up to speed. He's going to have to do that late September. So hopefully that's not going to impact him too much, but I think it's going to be something that would, if you're doing a redraft league, I'd be a little bit more hesitant to put a guy that's, one, already a rookie, so you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but now he's going to miss time at the beginning of the year with a knee. That kind of makes me say I'll wait to see if he's on the waiver wire when he comes back playing. I wouldn't be touching him at this point in time unless it's late round, you got an IR spot. But the one that I want to really talk about is Shaquille Leonard. Obviously was Darius Leonard. Now he said he's always gone by Shaquille. And so that's what we're going to call him. That's to respect to him and his family, absolutely. But he went under back surgery in June, and he's still not cleared. Definitely behind schedule as far as the expectation of being cleared. But, head coach is like, hey, he's good when he gets cleared. He's probably not even going to be 100% at that point in time. He's like, but, that's just how this is, in the NFL. I get it, but you don't want to not be 100% coming into week one of the season. You're going to, be dinged up, banged up the rest of the year. But even then, I don't think that he's going to be there week one, because they were talking about when he gets cleared and if he gets cleared, and this was a week ago, and it's been radio silence on this guy. Listen, he is a stud linebacker, absolute just force for this defense, but with him not even practicing yet, even being cleared to do anything, granted he's an all-pro that doesn't probably need to have the practice, but the concern with me is that it's a back injury. It was surgery that was in June, so why did we wait so long for the surgery? Was there other complications before then, or were they deciding to do one of these, it'll heal on its own, and then it didn't? And now it's maybe not healing as fast as they thought. All of this is just a huge concern for me that as far as with redraft leagues, there's other really good players that's going to be going at where this guy is going to be drafted at. I would go ahead and take my chance on a guy that's already healthy. Don't buy an injury dip on this one. And in dynasty leagues, I'd be getting a little nervous. Obviously right now probably is a low time for you to try to sell on him. So maybe you wait it out. Hopefully he comes back and he has a strong season when he does get back on the field. And then maybe start thinking about moving him, because guys that have back injuries that have gotten a good payday like he has might start looking at it not being really worth the pain and anguish that's causing him. It could be kind of like Luke Kuechly, where he hangs it up earlier, Patrick Willis, these middle linebackers that go through a beating like this. They might not want to continue that on when they're set for life already. But that's the one I'm most concerned about. That's one I wanted to make sure that we talked about, because, once again, it's been relatively good for the defensive side of the ball as far as that's concerned. But once again, I hope that I have not jinxed anybody. but we'll move on to the main event of the podcast. We are going to be talking about Iceberg's intuition. That's right, who I think is going to be the leaders of the categories, the stat leaders of tackles, sacks, and interceptions this year. I'm going to give you my top 3 guys in each one, and then I'm going to give you, my tackle Titanic, my guy that's gonna sink, he's not gonna quite do it, that's what's gonna happen. And my sack Titanic and my interception Titanic, the ones that are just gonna drop off in those specific categories from maybe where they were last year or they have been in their career long term. So we'll dive right into the tackles. Top tackle guy I have as Jordan Brooks. Listen, he finished second, I believe, last year just to Foye. But this offense is still terrible. They don't even have a running back that's able to play right now. That's, okay, they have Homer and those guys, but we've seen those guys play before. Nothing special with that. They don't have a quarterback that's worth anything. They keep waiting on Jimmy Garoppolo to be removed from his team, I think. I don't know. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities is what I'm getting at. They're going to be on the field a lot as a defense. And with Wagner gone, there's more chances for tackles. He's a 3-down linebacker. He's extremely athletic. He already has proven that he can do it. With his youth comes the ability to withstand some of these injuries and some of the wear of the season even better. So I think that Jordan Brooks will back it back up again this year, and he will dominate as far as tackles go. Is he the most talented person linebacker-wise in the NFL? No, but opportunity is all that matters, and he had over 1,100 snaps last year on defense. He's going to have a whole lot of snaps again this next year. My second on the list is going to be Cole Holcomb. This guy's a stalwart on the Washington Commanders defense. He's just a guy that comes in, he gets tackles, he doesn't do a lot of other big-time flash, but he's always at the ball. And the one thing that I've noticed over the history of IDP leagues is that the Washington was Redskins, then football team, and now Commanders, whoever keeps their stats is extremely friendly when it comes to assisted tackles. Oh, you were kind of close to it? Give them assist. It's just, if you go back to the days of London Fletcher, he had so many assisted tackles. I'm pretty sure he was getting popcorn during a few of them. But they also play a solid, 3 solid run defense teams, or run offense teams, the Commanders do this year. Twice. So the Eagles, who are just run heavy. Giants, Saquon Barkley is going to be the focal point of that offense, hopefully, if he can stay healthy. And then the Cowboys with Zeke. They continue to give him the ball a lot. And Washington's probably not going to be the best team in the division. They have surprised in the past, but I don't think that they're going to be winning more games than they're losing. So when they're losing, the team's going to run the ball. They're going to run it up the middle. Cole Holcomb going to get a tackle, say thank you for the points, head back to the sideline. So that's something to always account for, understanding situations that these guys are going to be in. And having the opportunity to be on the field is always the way you want it with defense. They don't strategically plan for Cole Holcomb to get a tackle. That's not how defense works. So it's all about opportunity, and are you there when the tackle needs to be made? And do you make the tackle? You can't, have a whole bunch of missed tackles and be valuable. So Cole Holcomb is going to be a guy that's going to be in the top 3 tackles at the end of 2022. My final tackle guy, Blake Martinez, Giants linebacker. It's been a tackle hoss his whole career. People forgot about him last year, tore his ACL and was out early. But he's coming back from injury. And we'll put him, and he's in a position to succeed with that defense. They're going to be losing. Nobody expects the Giants to be world beaters this year. Even with Brian Daboll here, it's just not going to happen in year one. So he's going to be manning the middle of that defense. He plays a whole lot of snaps, and he has the same thing as Cole Holcomb. He's going to play the Eagles and the Cowboys schedule, which both of those teams are going to run a lot. So the opportunity for tackles is there. And once again, if your team loses or is a team that loses a lot, the other team just runs the ball. And for middle linebackers, that's what you want. You want to have that middle of the field run up the middle, and he gets a tackle, and thank you. Fantastic. Move on to the next one. Most guys that you're going to get when they come to the tackles, they are going to be at the top of the league as far as points for IDP. You can talk about the guys that get sacks and interceptions, all that, and they'll spike in there. But the consistency of tackles is going to make it so that these guys are, no kidding, at the top of your IDP leagues. Now, that takes us to the Titanic. I know what you're thinking. Seth, you probably have exactly the person that everybody would expect. And you'd be right. It is Bobby Wagner. He went from 170 tackles. You think he's going to maintain that this next year? No way. New scheme, new team. Going to be more of a situational guy. The offense is better. It's just not going to happen for him. But that's a little bit too easy, per se, of one to kind of go with. You need to kind of give us somebody else to talk about, okay? I'll give you somebody else to talk about. Foyesade Alokin. Once again, same kind of situation with this guy. He was a monster last year. Everybody knows it. 192 total tackles. But he was on the Atlanta Falcons. Did he move to a much better team? No. But he moved to a different scheme with better linebackers around him. He's not going to get to that level anywhere near that. So if you think that you got a top 3 fantasy IDP linebacker going into this season, you're wrong. It's just not there. It's not going to happen. So the fact of the matter is, accept that. Is he going to be viable? Yes. Is he going to be a top 20 guy? Maybe. Probably. Just because, once again, he's not on a good team, and they're going to be on the field a lot as a defense. But he's not going to be a guy that goes out there and wins weeks for you. He's not going to be a guy that averages 10 tackles a week. It's just not going to happen. So just know that going into it. But him and Bobby are just going to be sinking to the bottom on this one. So let's move on to sacks. Who's going to lead in sacks this year? I tried very, very hard to not say TJ Watt. But I just can't. I can't. It's TJ Watt. This dude's been top 5 sack leader the last 3 years. Second by only a half sack in 2020. And blew the doors off in 2021. 22 and a half sacks. Tied the all-time record. At this point, it's just, he is until he isn't. He is the top guy to get for sacks. He's the best guy to put as an edge rusher on your team. He's the best guy as IDP if he's D-line eligible. Throw him in there and just be so happy that you have that opportunity. He's a monster. He's an absolute stud, and he'll continue to be. It's one of those situations where the player is perfectly fitted for the scheme in which they set him up for. Tomlin set that defense up so well. It's so impressive the way that he can get after the quarterback. I mean, we saw it with JJ, and TJ is just as good, if not better, from the linebacker position. There's still a lot that TJ has to get to get up to where JJ was for a long time in his career. We kind of forget how good JJ Watt was for how long. But TJ is well on his way there. And it's just a player that it's just a thrill to even watch him play until you got to play against him and you're in a league where he's D-line eligible or you have edge rushers. It's brutal. Now, that being said, when we talk about IDP, if it's just linebacker, most of the time I would say do not play pass rush specialist at linebacker because you want the tackles and they don't get as many. With TJ, that rules out the window, man. Just throw him in there. The sacks are going to make up for the lack of tackles that he has because he has so many of them. Crazy. Second on my list is a guy that's coming back from injury, and that's Danielle Hunter. This guy has been always a strong defensive end for the Vikings. Every year that he's played, he's been consistently up there in sacks. He was injured last year, but he was well on his way to having another great year and being a sack leader. On top of that, he gets to play the Lions and the Bears twice. Also this year, gets to play the Dolphins, the Jets, the Giants. All those guys are on the docket. All those guys are known, to having weak offensive lines for many years now. So I'm expecting him to get 14, 15 sacks this year, and that shouldn't be a crazy number to see out of him. Third guy on my list. This one's a wild card for sure. It's Rashawn Gary, linebacker for the Packers. I know. What about Myles Garrett? What about Bosa? What about the other Bosa? What about these guys that, are well known for sacks? I get it. Rashawn Gary had 9.5 sacks last year, and he only played 680 snaps. He's got the same schedule that benefits Danielle Hunter. Once again, gets to play the Bears twice, the Lions twice, the Dolphins, Jets, and Giants. He plays on a very high-powered offense. I don't care who Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to. He's still going to move that offense. So that'll cause him to be in great pass rush situations for most of the games that they play in. How many games do you think that the Packers are going to win this year? 12, 13? So that's 12 or 13 games. At the end of the game, he's going to be pinning his ears back and going after the quarterback. Opportunities lead to points. Rashawn Gary is going to make that leap this year, and everybody's going to be, where did this guy come from? Not me. He is going to have 13 to 15 sacks this year. I have no doubt that he's going to become that guy. Barring injury, of course, but Rashawn Gary is my wild card, but I think that it's a strong pick, and I would feel lucky to have him on my team at this point. Okay, so who's your sack Titanic? Well, that's going to be Harold Landry for Tennessee Titans. 12 sacks last year. It's not much against Harold. It's more against how that offense is going to look this year. Titans are going to take a step back. It just is going to happen. I know you can say, well, all those guys were injured last year and they still were winning games. Yeah, they were. But that luck's going to run out. They're not going to be able to continue to make things happen. Hopefully Treylon Burks puts it together. Robbie Woods is going to be a guy that they have, that's beneficial. Bobby Trees is a guy that I've liked. I think he's going to be solid. But I don't think he's going to be this great improvement over A.J. Brown. He's not going to be, him and Treylon Burks would have to combine to get that. Austin Hooper I like. I think that's actually going to be a great pickup for Tannehill to throw to. But that being said, slow offensive play, which means less defensive time on the field, less opportunities. Harold Landry is not going to repeat that. I think he'd be lucky to get to 7 sacks this year. And as an outside linebacker that gets maybe 50 tackles a year, it's not a guy I'm playing at linebacker, D-line eligible. We can have conversations about it, but it's probably more of a positional start, situational-wise, when you're on bye weeks or he has a good matchup. I'm not feeling great about Harold Landry repeating by any stretch of the imagination. So that brings us to our sack leaders. Sorry, not sack leaders, interception leaders. And this one is such a random stat at times, just the opportunity, the luck of the way the ball bounces. But there's been a guy that just doesn't seem to care about any of those things. And that's J.C. Jackson. I have him as the top of my list. I get it. Going to a new team, leaving New England. He's just going to fall apart like a lot of the defenders do. This kid loves finding the football. He baits them in. He knows how to break, when he needs to break, and when to get that quarterback to throw the ball his way. There is the risk of him going to a new team and having a new scheme, for sure. But he just is such a natural talent at finding the football. I think that he's going to be up there again. His last 3 years pick-wise, 5, 9, 8. It's a pretty sticky stat for a non-sticky stat. You just have to have that intuition. See, Iceberg's intuition. And the pedigree to be able to do that. He's also on a high-powered offense in a high-passing division. So things should work out for J.C. Jackson this year. Next person on my list is one that I went back and forth a lot because, once again, this is probably the hardest one to try to predict. And as much as I wanted to, I'm going to give him, credit. As much as I wanted to put Patrick Surtain Jr. into this spot, I just felt like his teammate was going to have better opportunity to reach the top interception list. And that's Justin Simmons. This guy's typically good for 5 picks a year. And that's been 5 picks a year when this team has not been competing. Overall, this team is way better, on offense especially, and should be in more games, which will give him more opportunities to pick the ball off. So I expect him to have his career year in interceptions with around 8 picks this year. My final interception specialist for the season is Xavier Howard, cornerback for the Miami Dolphins. Now, X is usually good for a big year in picks every other year. 4 years ago, 7. 3 years ago, 1. 2 years ago, 10. Last year, 5. So, this pace kind of continues. He should have like 15 interceptions this year. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I do think that with the way that team is now set up, with them having more playmakers in the secondary, better pass rushers and more experience with Jalen Phillips getting another year, bringing back Emmanuel Ogbah, bringing on Melvin Ingram, and then there's talks of them even signing Trey Flowers as well. Having this rotational pass rush that's going to make them hurry the ball out, as well as having an offense that should be scoring more points, I think that Xavier will come down with at least 7 picks this year. He's just that good. He sets himself up for success, and he's just one of those guys, just like J.C. Jackson, that just seems to find the football, and they keep throwing to his side of the field. So the opportunities seem to still be there. Now, when we talk about, once again, our Titanic person, who's our Jack that's getting pushed off the door by Rose, well, it's none other than Trayvon Diggs. I mean, you cannot repeat what he did last year. Not so because his interceptions was high with 11, but it's more so the way that he played was so win or go home. I mean, he was the Ricky Bobby of cornerbacks last year. You ain't first, you're last. It's either an interception or they're scoring a touchdown. Like, there was really not a lot in between. So the fact of the matter is that he's just not going to be able to repeat that. They're going to start doing double moves on this kid. They're going to make him jump routes, and then they're going to throw it over the top. It's just not one that I feel good about. But that being said, if you're bad at coverage, you're good at getting tackles. So maybe he'll still be relevant, but I'm not rolling him out in any of my leagues this year. That's for sure. So with that being said, that kind of wraps it up, man. We are, like I said, this is the last week of preseason, and we've got that little bye week to get everything ready, and then it is football time. So make sure you're following us on Facebook. We've started to get a lot of draft questions, but even more so exciting, start-sit questions are already coming in. I love it. So go ahead and send us a message. Like I said, even if you got IDP questions, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook. Send us a message through there. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. So keep up with us and definitely like and follow for the podcast. We are continuing throughout the year. We'll go through, pickups, waiver ads, things like that. Players that are, maybe not getting the snap counts that we thought they would when it's time to buy low, sell high on some of these guys. But until then, go watch some football this weekend. It's your last chance before it really starts. And remember that defense wins fantasy. This podcast has been presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network.